Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Celebrating Rama Navami, the day on which Lord Ramachandra appeared in this world in Ayodhya, the town which is still there in Uttar Pradesh in India. Lord Ram appeared how long ago? 18 million years ago. We may say, wow, that doesn't sound right because there's evolution and there weren't any humans around at that time, but Vedic chronology teaches us that actually humans have been on this planet for many, many millions of years, and time goes in cycles. Now we're in Kali Yuga, which is the worst of the four ages, and Lord Rama appears in Treta Yuga, but there's a cycle. Satya Yuga is followed by Treta Yuga, followed by Dwapara Yuga, and followed by Kali Yuga. So several Treta Yugas previously, some 18 million years ago, Lord Rama appeared in this world, and still today his festival is celebrated all over North India, especially on this day. It's very, very big celebration. Why? Why the big fuss about Ram? Well, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some people say he's mythological or some folk hero, or they present Ramayana just as some kind of Indian folk story. But if it was simply a folk story, it wouldn't invoke in people such feelings of bhakti even up to the present day. Bhakti means devotion. Why is that? Because Rama is actually the Supreme Lord, and we all have an eternal, loving relationship with Him. It is a heart-to-heart matter. And that is why, because Rama is a real person, really real. Ram is non-different from Krishna. He pervades everything. He's in everyone's heart. And the perfection of life is pure love for Him. Now, sometimes people say, well, you Hare Krishna people, you don't talk about Rama very much. But actually, the people who say that, I don't think they chant the name of Rama as much as we Hare Krishna devotees, as we're known, as much as we do. Because those of us who are initiated in Krishna consciousness, we daily, as a vow, we chant a minimum of 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra, and 16, or the Maha mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and 16 rounds means 16 times 108, and 108 what? Maha mantra. Maha mantra is what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So that we have the name of Rama comes 4 times in the Maha mantra, and we chant one round is 108, and we chant 16 times that. So 16 times 108 times 4 comes out more than 7,000 times a day. And I don't know if everyone who says that we're not much into Rama chants the name of Rama as much as we do every day. So we're very much conscious of Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who founded, you could say, this Gauriya Vaishnava Sampradaya in which we come, he instructed his followers to celebrate Ram Navami, Ram Vijaya Mahotsav. He personally celebrated this every year with his followers. So, although definitely in this Hare Krishna movement, our taste or our bhakti is particularly directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna, but Rama is Krishna in another form, and he's non-different, so we love him also. Different and non-different. He's the same Lord, but in a different mood. Krishna is Lila Purushottam. His pastimes are just for his own pleasure. And Rama is known as Maryada Purushottam. He came to show how to live as an ideal person in this world, an ideal king in particular. So it's a matter of taste. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya also, there were Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal associates. Some of them were great devotees of Lord Rama. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's among his principal associates were Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and they had a younger brother known as Anupam. And Rupa and Sanatana, their bhakti, their devotion was fully concentrated on Krishna. And Anupam, his devotion was fully concentrated on Rama. So Rupa and Sanatana would always say to Anupam, why don't you worship Krishna with us? It'll be nice, we'll all be together. And Anupam thought, well, my brothers keep on asking me, so okay, alright, I agree. Alright, you're my elder brothers, I'll do what you say. That's a major lesson we received from the pastimes of Lord Rama, that how the younger brothers follow the younger brothers. I don't think that's very popular nowadays, but it was a core part of Indian culture. So Anupam said, yes, okay, from tomorrow I'll start worshipping Krishna with you. Then the next morning he came and said, please give me permission to give up my life, because all night I couldn't sleep. I already gave my heart fully to Lord Rama, how can I give it up? And then the brother said, oh, very nice, you're so much absorbed in bhakti to Rama, so you can continue. You please continue with that. Also in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Murari Gupta was one of his close associates, and Murari Gupta he was a great worshipper of Sita, Rama, and he's known to be the reappearance. He is Hanuman, who's come in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's no question of Krishna Bhakti without Rama Bhakti, because Rama is Krishna. It's just that different people worship the Lord in different forms according to different taste in pure devotional service. So the pastimes of... that's another thing we should mention, that here in England, where the shooting is going on just close to here, is the temple of Radha Gokulananda, very famous in England. And there also are Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman being worshipped. And Srila Prabhupada, who also founded that very famous temple of ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in Juhu, in Bombay, very famous temple. There are worshipped Radha Rasabihari, that means Radha and Krishna, Gaur-Nitai, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Nityananda, and also there worshipped Sita, Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman. So it's a misconception that in our movement we don't give importance to Rama, but we especially concentrate on Krishna. That's a fact, that we don't deny. But it's not that we are denying Rama, no such thing. We chant the names of Rama, we celebrate the festivals of Rama, we discuss the pastimes of Rama. In North India especially, the pastimes of Rama are particularly known by the Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidas, and in other parts of India, that's known as the Hindi Ramayana. Actually it's in Audi Avadi, a North Indian language. And in other parts of India also, the Ramayana has been rendered into different vernacular languages. In Bengali, the Ramayana has been done in Bengali by one poet called Kritivas, and in different languages there are different versions of that. But the main version in this Kali Yuga has been given by Valmiki in Sanskrit. So we especially give importance to the Ramayana by Valmiki, and the translations which are promoted within ISKCON, they're taken from Valmiki's Ramayana. This This is important to understand because in different editions, in different languages, there may be some different things said, but the authoritative edition is the Sanskrit edition by Valmiki. So the pastimes of Lord Rama, they're very well known. They're also summarized in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's very interesting there because Shukadev is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and he says, I will now summarize to you the pastimes of Lord Rama, anyway you know them very well. Now this was spoken 5,000 years ago, which means that even 5,000 years ago, the pastimes of Rama were widely discussed, even among devotees of Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj was a devotee of Krishna from his very childhood, but he fully knew the pastimes of Rama because they were widely discussed. Nowadays people, their attention goes in what? Football, politics, fashion, and who knows what, all kinds of useless things. The mind has to have something to think about, but in spiritual Indian culture, the attention is toward the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So even Parikshit, it was understood that he already knew very well the pastimes of Lord Rama, and they're summarized in Srimad Bhagavatam as they're summarized in Mahabharata and in many Puranas. And even actually the Valmiki's version of Ramayana, even though it's quite an expansive work, that's also a summary. There is the in the heavenly planets, there is the Mula Ramayana, of which the Valmiki, he gave the summary of that. So the pastimes are quite well known, and hopefully the influence of modern life is not so much that people, or what we may call Hindus for want of a better term, that they're not unaware of these pastimes. Unfortunately, it's becoming like that. So one of the great tasks of this ISKCON, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama movement is to revive people's, especially those who identify themselves as followers of Sanatana Dharma, to revive their knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, as their, at least their grandparents would be fully knowledgeable of at least the broad outline. So these pastimes, it's well known how Dasharath is the father of Rama and the mother is Kaushalya, how Dasharath didn't have a son. He was eventually in older age able to get 4 sons, of whom the elder was Rama, and from his very childhood, Rama, he exhibited such ideal character, perfect person. Everyone loved him. In Ayodhya, he was the crown prince, Rajkumar, and his brothers, even though they were born just after him, that means Bharat, Lakshman, Shatrughna, they deferred to him as they would to their father. They treated the elder brother just like a father, and he reciprocally dealt with them in a very loving way. Not that the brothers are fighting among each other, but they're very closely together. As Ram grew up, then as he grew up, day by day, the inhabitants of Ayodhya, all the citizens, they simply loved him more and more, which is quite different to the situation in the modern age where you have politicians and no one loves them. Some people might respect them or they might support their party, but there's not that feeling of love as there was, because the kings in those days, the ideal kings, they acted according to dharma. They ruled as a father would look after the children, they would look after the citizens, not to exploit them, not with any personal interest, but they would guide them in religious principles, and the kings themselves would be ideal followers of those principles. So Rama, he was ideal in following religious principles, and he was also very affectionate to all the citizens, and so everyone loved him. And at one point Dasharath, he proposed to Rama that, okay, now I'm old, so I'll abdicate and you take over as the king. You don't wait until I die. So Rama, he accepted he was not greedy to get the kingdom or to occupy the throne, but it's the order of my father, I shall take it as he wants. He was detached. Not that, now I'm going to take over, now I'm going to be big. No such thing. He was a Raja Rishi, ideal Rajarshi, the word is. He was a king, but his consciousness was pure, like a Rishi or a great sage. So this news went out that tomorrow, the very day that Dasharath told Rama, he said, so when will the coronation be? Tomorrow. Didn't give much time for preparation, but anyway, that's how it went. Then the news went out, and everyone in Ayodhya, the city and the whole countryside all around, everyone became very happy. Because although they had full respect and love for Dasharath, but even more so for Rama, the very... and of course I'm skipping up a bit, we can't say everything in a few minutes. In the meantime, in his youth, Rama married Sita. You have to read the Ramayana to get it all. I'm sure you all know it. If you don't, well, become acquainted. It's such a wonderful story that's going on for millions and millions of years. Why? It's not some, Harry Potter or something like that. It's not just some imagination which becomes popular for some time and then becomes forgotten, but it lives in the hearts of all the devotees because Rama is real and our relationship of love with him is real. So just become acquainted with all of this. Rama married Sita, and there's so many adventures on how he came to marry Sita, how Vishwamitra, the great rishi, wanted to take Rama for killing some demons. That's another thing, how the kings become popular. One reason is they protect the good citizens from the demoniac elements. They don't tolerate such things. So the demons who are disturbing everything, they were killed by Rama. So Vishwamitra, at first Dasharath didn't want to let Rama go because he couldn't live with, he thought, I can't live without Rama. But anyway, Vishwamitra, he took Rama and then he killed demons who were destroying, or killed and banished those who were disturbing the religious sacrifices of the sages in the forest. They went to the capital city of another king, Janak Maharaj, and won the hand of Sita. It's big stories. It's how he did so, showing his great prowess even as a young boy in India up to the present day, until we'd say a man at age 18, but at that age still in Indian culture called a boy. So still quite young, and he broke the bow of Lord Shiva, which hardly an ordinary person couldn't even pick it up. But in stringing it, he pulled it so hard that he broke it, and then so he became the husband of Sita. So many things. He met with Parashuram on the. You see, if we just get to just touch a little bit, then you can go on for hours and hours. Just one little part, and it's a whole big story. Anyway, he won the hand of Sita. He was to be the crown prince, but everything's going very nicely, everything's going very happily. All of a sudden, there's a big twist in the story. Dasharath had 3 wives. Kaushalya was the mother of Rama, and the other 2 wives were Sumitra and Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi had taken a boon from Dasharath that that whenever she had some wish, he would fulfill it. So her mind was polluted by the maidservant Mantara, that actually Ram's going to take the throne, but your son Bharat, Ram will oppress him. There was no question of Ram oppressing Bharat, because they were like the two persons but one heart, their love for each other, but somehow or other Kaikeyi's mind became polluted, and she demanded from Dasharath that you don't make this Ram the king. Send him to the forest. He should go to the forest. Don't let him come here, and my son will be the king. So this was the great happiness of Ayodhya turned to great distress, that not only is Ram being denied the kingdom, but he's being banished, so we won't even see him at all. So from the great happiness turned to great distress, and Dasharath was completely upset. Bharat wasn't present at the time in Ayodhya, but when he came later, he also became completely upset, and no one was happy with this, only Kaikeyi and Mantana. But anyway, Ram, to honor the word of his father, because his father had given his word to his wife Kaikeyi, to honor the word of his father, he went to the forest. All the citizens of Ayodhya, they wanted to follow him, but he told them to go back, and he lived in the forest. He was actually very happy living there among the sages. Lakshman, his brother, one of his brothers, came to live with him, and he served Rama and Sita literally day and night, and protecting. At night he would stay awake to protect them. While they slept, he would arrange for their bedding and everything. So they were living and just briefly summarizing, unfortunately there's not much time. Anyway, to make a very long story very short, eventually the great demon Ravana kidnapped Sita, and Ram didn't even know where he'd taken her. He eventually found out thanks to Hanuman. Now, if we're going to talk about Rama's pastimes, we have to talk about Hanuman. And Hanuman is such a great devotee of Lord Rama that practically he's maybe even better known than Rama. He's in the form of a monkey, but he's very intelligent, very powerful, and completely dedicated to Lord Rama. So he found out that Sita has been taken away by Ravana to Ravana's kingdom over the water in Lanka, and he's kept her there, but Sita never acquiesced to Ravana's desires to enjoy her, and Ravana also would not try to enjoy her by force, because he'd already been cursed that if he tried to do so with any woman he would die immediately. So it's a great story of how Rama, with the assistance of Hanuman and so many monkeys, they came over to Lanka and eventually killed Ravana and took back Sita. But we just say in short, we don't capture it all, how Rama, how he's the Supreme Lord, he can do everything as he likes, as he wishes, there's no need for Sita to be kidnapped. But if there's no kidnapping of Sita, then there's no Ram Lila, there are no pastimes, there's no opportunity for Hanuman and the monkeys to serve Rama in that way. So Rama gives the opportunity to them, and in this way shows that even though he's taking the role of a worldly king, and even though above and beyond that he is the Supreme Lord, supremely powerful, but he accepts the service even those who are considered very low in human society. A king will always be surrounded by brahmanas, and very high class people will serve him. He accepted the service as he was in the forest of Guha, who was considered a Chandal or outcast, but because he had full love for Lord Rama accepted his service. Then he accepted the service even of those who are even below the human status. So in this way Rama shows that his love is for those who love him. And it doesn't matter whether we're very big in human society or very low in human society or even subhuman. Rama accepts our love. That's what he's looking for. Our service, our dedication. So it's a very long story, many exciting adventures, and big battle, people getting killed, and drama. It's great drama. I remember, how many years? That must be more than 25 years ago, when this Ramayana serial came out every Sunday morning in India on TV, and the whole of India stopped. It was in Hindi, and in North India, just the whole of India would be closed down. There'd be no one on the streets because everyone would be in front of a TV watching this. They were so attracted to the pastimes of Lord Rama, even though there's all this scientific, atheistic preaching, even though there's all kinds of Bollywood movies, but still the attraction was there for Lord Rama. So you awaken it also. Why not? Why should we not all appreciate how kind is Lord Rama, how charming is Lord Rama, how by taking shelter of him and remembering him, we'll always be happy, and ultimately we can go to him. And even if our concentration is mainly on Krishna, we can appreciate more the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from Lord Rama, that he comes in so many different forms to please his devotees. Jai Sri Rama, Jai Sri Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us chant this Maha Mantra throughout our life and pray for the mercy of Krishna, who is Rama, Rama, who is Krishna, and especially on the day of Ram Navami, we remember the beautiful pastimes of Lord